Hi everyone, and welcome to week 12, and this is the final module for this cybersecurity tutorial. In the previous module, we discussed cloud security, discussed how you can secure your data in the cloud and how you can secure your virtual private cloud. Okay, and so in this concluding tutorial, which is not also going to be so long, we're going to discuss disaster recovery and incident response. Essentially, we're discussing how to respond to cybersecurity incidents, okay, and how you can ensure that disasters that crystallize do not impact your security, your business operations. Okay, or probably you're just saying, trying to minimize the impact of a disaster. So we'll take this one after the other. So we'll start with incident response. So let's see, what is incident response? Incident response is an organized approach to addressing and managing the aftermath of a security breach or a cyber attack, also known as an IT incident, computer incident, computer incident, or security incident. The goal is to handle the situation in a way that limits damage and reduces recovery time and costs. Take that again. Incident response is an organized approach to addressing and managing the aftermath of a security breach or a cyber attack, also known as an IT incident, computer incident, or security incident. The goal is to handle the situation in a way that limits damage and reduces recovery time and costs. This definition is from searchtarget.com. Okay, so it just like the definition has said, you just manage the aftermath of a security breach or a cyber attack. So probably there's an incident that has happened, probably denial of service, or there's malware infection, or maybe um an unencrypted laptop that has sensitive data has been stolen. That's when you activate your incident response plan. Okay, so what you do after an incident is there are the steps involved in incident response. Okay, so the first thing you might want to do is you detect it, you contain it, you respond. Okay, and then the primary objective is to minimize damage. All right, and you reduce recovery time, restore normal working operation in a very short time. Okay, and also minimize costs. Okay, so you are doing your very best to ensure that the damage is reduced, damage is minimized, and it can be restored back to normal working condition in a very short time. So that is the primary objective of incident response. So let's look at this second definition. The act of cleanup and recovery when you discover a cybersecurity breach. You might also see these breaches referred to as IT incidents, security incidents, or computer incidents. Whatever you call them, you need a plan, a team dedicated to managing the incident and minimizing the damage and cost of recovery. You can see these two have almost the same thing. The second definition is from Veronis, alright? So they have almost the same definition, okay? It is the same concept, and the primary concept is that recovery time is reduced, cost is reduced, and damage is minimized, okay? So that the impact is also reduced. Impact on the company is also reduced. That's primarily what incident response is. How you respond to an incident and how you ensure that the damage is minimized, cost of recovery is also minimized, and the recovery time is also reduced. So if you have a plan in place and a team in place, and you've always tested the plan, it's very likely that your recovery time will be quite low. So the examples of cyber incidents. So what if there's a ransomware attack now and a couple of your servers, a couple of your workstations, your databases have been um, infected with ransomware and have been encrypted. Okay, ransomware usually uses AES 256 grade of encryption. Okay, so when that has happened, what do you do first? How do you respond? Okay, so what I would do first off would be to find infected computers or the infected systems and disconnect them from the network to prevent spread. Okay, now ransomware has not been proven to be decrypted yet, except for a few variants. The researchers have decrypted and put their key publicly available. Okay, so in case of ransomware, you need to restore from backup to ensure that you have the latest copy of your data running. Okay, so that's it for ransomware. Denial of service. You have denial of service or what is called distributed denial of service. Okay, so in that case, imagine someone is that it's called DOS or DDoS. Imagine someone is denying service to your e-commerce server. Okay, how do you respond and how do you ensure that your losses are minimized? Because for an e-commerce server, for every second that it's down, you lose money. Okay, so for denial of service, I think the most important thing would be to isolate the attack, you know, take the server offline, probably install antidote solution, and then take the server back online. Because once it's back online, the antidote solution should help with filtering um, the DDoS attack, matter where it's coming from, by bandwidth. Okay, and then you should be good to go. So we have malware infection. Malware infection is simply grabbing malware, infecting your computers, infecting your servers, and uh, toying with the files, infecting the files, changing Word documents to .exe without leaving a backup copy behind. Okay, so first need to confirm if you have working antivirus, because if you have working antivirus, you might not have to bother much about malware infection because it will prevent the incident in the first place. But in cases where you already have malware on your hands, you might need to wipe the affected system and then restore from backup, and then you install anti-malware solution to prevent a reoccurrence. And also you have a data breach. Data breach is a case where um, cyber attackers have taken your data. All right. So how do you respond to that incident? Okay. So there's really not much you can do in terms of data breach than to notify and find out how the breach happened so that you can prevent it from re-happening. let's look at an incident response plan. So taking this from Varonis, what are the 6 step is the what are the steps rather involved in incident response? There are 6 steps. Number one, you have preparation. Number two, you have identification. Number three, you have containment. Number four, eradication. Number five, recovery. And six, and the final step, we have um, review the lessons learned. Okay. There's also um, another, let me just say, it's not really an incident response plan, but a way of responding to incidents called the OODA loop, OODA. Observe, orient, decide, act. Maybe I'll come back to that when I'm done explaining these 6 steps. So first off, type of preparation is where you're preparing for an incident. Okay, you are ensuring that your environment is configured in such a way that if an incident crystallizes today, you have the resources necessary to respond to that incident and to detect the various causes of that incident so you can prevent a reoccurrence. It's more or less a way of making your environment forensic ready. Okay. So in preparation, this is where you install things like install security controls like antivirus, your firewall. We also install detective controls like your SIM, preventive controls like antivirus, HIPS, NIPS, tools like that. You're just ensuring that the organization is being prepared for an incident. Okay, this is also where you create your team, your incident response team, and you also create your incident response plan. You test it, you maintain it, and you need to test the plan and review it probably every year to ensure that it is in alignment with your business objectives, okay, and also the security objectives of the organization. All right, so that's it for preparation. Preparation, you're preparing for an incident. An incident will always happen. Attackers will always attack you, but you need to have measures in place to ensure that when this incident happens, you are ready for whatever it comes with. Okay, you are ready to detect it. You are ready to act on it. You are ready to prevent the spread. Okay, and also ready to prevent a reoccurrence. Second, you have identification. This is where you detect an incident. So when there's a particular event of interest and you observe and you find out that it meets the criteria to be an incident or it involves a breach of security controls, then it becomes an incident. Here you have identified an incident. This is where you perform basic triage. Okay. Now this is where you differentiate between an event and incident. An event is normal, but an incident is an event that is a violation of uh, normal security controls. Identification phase is the most important phase in incident response because if you can't identify an incident, then you can't act on it. Okay. So in the identification phase, this is where you detect that an incident is ongoing. And like I said, you need to be prepared because some incidents can be going right under your nose without you doing anything. So for example, an attacker might be carrying out stealthy, fragmented scans such that your security tools might not be able to pick it because scan uses fragments to conduct scanning, but there are tools that can detect fragmented scans. So if you are trying to be more ready for incident response or to respond to incidents, you need to have these sophisticated tools in place not just the tools, but also the plan. Okay. So next, third stage is what you call containment. After you've detected the incident, so for example, you've detected that a ransomware attack is ongoing or malware infection is ongoing, what you do is to contain the attack, or what you call you prevent the spread of the attack. Okay. So one of the most important things is probably to disconnect the computer from the network. Unless I forget, incident response goes hand in hand with computer forensics, because sometimes incident response might involve litigation. And what that means is that when you carry out forensics to examine the source, the pattern, and purpose of the attack, okay, you might also need to um, identify the threat actor, and if you discover is an internal person or someone you can easily uh, indict, or someone that can easily be caught, the person needs to be charged to court. All right. So, in identification, containment rather, you're preventing the spread of ransomware attack. You're disconnecting the infected systems from the network, and also the infected segment is isolated from the rest of the network. Okay, so you're just trying to reduce the spread of the ransomware. Okay, and this makes more sense because it gives you lesser assets to worry about. You don't have to worry about the entire network getting infected. Okay, now next, number four, that was called eradication. In eradication, you are trying to um, eliminate the source of the attack. Okay, so for ransomware, what you would do would be to restore backups. All right, and if it's possible that the ransomware has been decrypted by a researcher before and the key posted online, then what you need to do is to decrypt the system, cover your files, and probably you need to wipe the system afterwards, because you might see the traces of the malware running around in the system and also in the network. So in your education, this is where you probably wipe the system to eliminate the ransomware. All right. Then next up we have what's called recovery. In recovery, you are restoring um, the IT systems, the organization systems back to normal operating mode. So for the case of ransomware, you are restoring from backup. Okay, and you're trying to ensure our systems are back to normal working and normal operating conditions. Okay, and you're trying to ensure that the data restored is also the most current data. You're just trying to ensure that everything has been restored to normal working condition, and that the ransomware problem or the cyber incident is no longer exists. Okay, and finally we have what's called review lessons learned. Some people just simply call it lessons learned. So what this means is you look at the incident and you see what could we have done better. Okay, how could we have prevented this incident from occurring, and how can we prevent it from reoccurring. Okay, and you're trying to identify how you responded in the other five stages. Did we do well? Essentially taking feedback so you can improve the process. Okay, and sometimes it might include a review of the security policy, because it's the policy that governs the organization. All right, so this is the six-step incident response plan. Let's move forward. Let's now look at responsibilities for incident response. So in every organization, there's what's called a computer security incident response team, what we call a CSAT, just to uh, abbreviate. So this is CSAT, and responsibility for incident response lies largely with them. Okay, so let's look at the following functional parties involved in incident response. Number one, you have the incident response manager. So this person is usually the lead or the head of the CSAT team that oversees the incident response plan in action. So there's usually a plan, okay, and this plan is usually drafted, yes, by the CSAT and with inputs from people in management, okay. So there's need to test this plan to ensure that um, you are not surprised by any form of attack, to ensure that you get all the stages in this day response process correctly. Okay, so the incident response manager is also what we call CSAT lead. He leads the team that oversee implementation of the plan, testing of the plan, maintenance of the plan. Okay. The next up we have what is called security analysts. They are what we call the ground troops responsible for threat neutralization and containment of an active security incident. Okay, these are the hands-on guys, hands-on. Okay, are the ones that perform um, containment, eradication, recovery, root cause analysis, okay, and restoration to normal working condition. All right, so they are very technical and they perform a bulk of the incident response plan, perform the technical part, incident response. Okay, team responsible. Sorry. Next up, we have what we call threat researchers. They are the team responsible for providing research and intelligence to add context to security incidents. Okay, they often search for other incidents and analyze logs for hints and clues about the incident. So, um, if incidents are happening elsewhere, there's usually threat intel bodies, threat intel platforms that release information about these incidents. All right. So, threat researchers analyze this information and try to apply it to their own organizations. Okay, and often when they analyze it, they provide advisory to other members of security team on how to deal with this type of incidents. Okay, so it's essentially what they do. There are other cross-functional roles that may not really be technical and hands-on. We have the management team. This includes senior management. They provide resources and they buy into the team and the plan. When you have management involved, it's very easy to get wheels moving. Okay, so it makes sense to have a management team on your incident response as part of your CSAT. Not really part of your CSAT, but they have to be involved in the process. That is quite important, very important. They have to be involved in the process. They have to be involved in the planning. Okay, the testing, the implementation. They have to be involved because they provide resources. If there are any tools that need to be purchased, they provide. Okay. Then we have human resources that are often brought in to support CSAT efforts if an employee is involved. So if it's an employee that is responsible for installing the ransomware, human resource has to deal with dealing with the employee. Let's just put it that way. Okay. So they also employ members of the CSAT team. Okay. We also have general counsel, what I call the legal team. Very important, very, very important. Compliance and regulation are an integral part of data security. So get the lawyers involved, okay? Possibly as part of the full-time team. I also have a full-time compliance officer fulfill this role. And sometimes when incidents affect security regulations, okay, general regulations regarding security, you have lawyers involved, okay? Probably because if there's a breach, you need to notify, and um, you need to notify regulating bodies, you need to notify customers, you need to communicate appropriately in such a way that manages the damage, okay? Then you have public relations, PR. They can help to manage communication after incidents, especially now that data breaches need to be public information so quickly. Okay, so these are cross-functional roles of an incident response team. They are not really technical, but they are needed after investigations have been carried out. Okay, yeah. So now let's move to disaster recovery. Disaster recovery is an area of security planning that aims to protect an organization from the effects of significant negative events. Having a disaster recovery strategy in place enables an organization to maintain or quickly resume mission critical functions following a disruption. So, in essence, disaster recovery deals with having to restore normal business operations after an incident has happened. Incident response deals with tackling an incident, okay, and restoring normal operations, while disaster recovery tackles bringing operations back to life after an incident has happened and ensuring that operations are running as normal as possible. Okay, so let me take that definition again. It's an area of security planning that aims to protect an organization from the effects of significant negative events. So the disaster recovery minimizes the impact of a disaster, helps you to minimize the impact of a disaster and helps to maintain and quickly resume mission critical functions. Notice that the um, priority is on mission critical functions. Okay, the most important business functions of an organization. So you restore the business critical functions first before you restore other functions. So that's the reason why when there's an incident, maybe like an earthquake, uh, and the office is affected, staff can probably work from home, being connected to the online data center. Okay, so the data center houses most critical functions, most critical online functions of a business. Okay, and it acts as a backup. Okay, so once that is done, every other type of recovery can be done little by little. Okay, so let's see another definition. Disaster recovery involves a set of policies, tools, and procedures to enable the recovery or continuation of vital technology infrastructure and systems following a natural or human-induced disaster. So let's see an example of natural disaster. You have earthquake, you have flooding, you have a tsunami, um, yeah, temperature conditions. These are examples of natural disaster. Now, human disasters, we have um, malware, fire sometimes, um, rioting that affects uh, facilities and so on. DDoS one is also human-induced disaster. So I'll take that again. It involves a set of policies, tools, procedures, you know, essentially instruments to enable the recovery or continuation of vital technology, infrastructure, and systems following a natural or human-induced disaster. That definition is taken from Wikipedia. Let's say elements of disaster recovery. We have a code site. So when we're talking about a cold site, talking about an alternate site where um disaster recovery can happen. So if in the primary site something has happened, probably there's an earthquake, okay, and it has affected the primary data center. The cold sites and alternate sites are usually located in a different geographical region so that both sites are not subject to the same uh, disasters, incidents. Okay, so the cold site usually takes more time to recover because Tony has facility mostly. Okay, we not have infrastructure already. Just has heating, ventilation, air conditioning. It has power. It has other utilities, but does not have technology yet. Does not have data. Okay, and code size usually takes weeks to bring to life because you have to get infrastructure to the alternate data center, and you need to start making restoration configuration. Okay, and it's less expensive than warm site and hot site. A warm site is a balance between cold sites and a hot site in the sense that it has the building, it has heating, ventilation, air conditioning, it has power, it has internet, it has servers. Okay, servers are already configured. But what a warm site lacks is data, most current data to work with. So a warm site could take between hours to a week to restore. All right. Then we have a hot site. Hot site could be exact replicas of the primary data center, and they are very expensive. Okay. So if there is a damage in a data center somewhere, all right, the hot site will, or rather can serve as an immediate replacement as it has the most up-to-date data for use. Okay. The next up we have reciprocal agreement. Reciprocal agreement is just an agreement between two companies that agree to house each other in the event of an incident. And it's usually good to have these two companies to be geographically separate from each other. So if there's an incident at company A, company B can open up its data center to company A to set up and run for a while before company A fully recovers back to the primary site. There are usually issues here, confidentiality issues, because you're housing the data with a third party you have no control over. Mobile sites could be hot sites, could be warm sites, and there are sites that are probably data center on a truck. Okay, they can be hot sites and can be operated fully from inside a truck. Okay, and next we have backups. In disaster recovery, backups are very essential. Okay, now some other elements that I have not listed there are elements that metrics that we work with when dealing with disaster recovery. For example, recovery time objective (RTO). Recovery time objective. This is the amount of time in which recovery must happen. Okay, so if your RTO is 6 hours, it means if there's an incident, you must restore your site in 6 hours. So that means you are clearly going for probably a hot site. Okay, or maybe a warm site if you can restore the data in less than 6 hours. Then we have what is called recovery point objective. So this is the amount of data loss a company is willing to take in the event of an incident. What that means is if you back up weekly, it means you are willing to take um, a loss of 1 week's worth of data. Okay. Then we have what is called maximum allowable downtime. Is the maximum allowable downtime is the amount of time that a system can be down without uh, affecting the existence of the organization. Okay, they have what is called allowable interruption window. Is the amount of time that services can run from an alternate site, okay, before operation is restored to the primary facility. Okay, so these are some disaster recovery elements. So let's look at types of backup. You have a full backup where you back up the entire system. Okay, now full backups are usually expensive, very expensive, and very time consuming. So that's why um, you complement them with either incremental backup or differential backup. Now, when you're talking about incremental backup, we're talking about backing up data that has changed since the last incremental backup. So if you're combining full and incremental backup, probably you do full backup every Saturday, and then every other day you perform incremental backups. What that means is if you perform full backup on Saturday, you have a tip. On Sunday, you perform incremental backup. Monday, perform another backup. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you perform a full backup and it's called discard every other disk. Then every other day of the week, continue to perform incremental backup. So what that means is that if there's an incident on Thursday, you have to install the backup from um, the full backup from Saturday and incremental backups from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, so depending on the time of the backup, if you backed up on Thursday morning already and it failed, you had an incident on Thursday evening, you can easily restore um, Saturday's full backup with Monday's incremental backup, Sunday's incremental backup rather, Monday's incremental backup, Tuesday's incremental backup, Wednesday's incremental backup, and Thursday's incremental backup. All right. So for differential backup, we are only installing data that has changed since the last full backup. Okay. So what that means is in differential backup, you perform full backup, then on probably you perform full backup on Saturday, Sunday perform incremental backup, Monday you backup data that has changed since Saturday till Monday, Tuesday you perform backup again, data that has changed from from Saturday to Tuesday. Wednesday you perform differential backup again of data that has changed since Saturday to Wednesday. So in incremental backup, you have more number of tapes to restore than in differential backup. Differential backup, you have just two tapes to restore, which is the full backup and differential backup. Okay, but for incremental backup, you restore the full backup and you restore the incremental backup for every other day. So incremental backup takes less time to backup, but more time to restore. While differential backup takes more time to back up but less time to restore since you're restoring just two disks. So let's look at the elements of a disaster recovery plan. So first off, you create a team. Okay, you need to know who's going to be in your team. You need to have a savage team. Those that will minimize impact. You need to have the technical guys on ground, people from IT, people from security. Okay, and also you need to identify risks to your organization. You need to perform what is called a business impact analysis. What you do is you identify the um, most critical assets to your organization, and then you determine the risks to them. Okay, and after doing that, you you find out how you can prevent these risks from occurring. Okay, and after doing that, you assign a risk value to them so that you prioritize the restoration. Okay, So you determine critical resources, specify your backup and offsite storage procedures, and ensure you test and maintain the DRP plan. There are many ways of testing the DRP plan. It's what you call a full interruption test, where you take down the primary facility and try to restore the operations. Okay, then you have what is called a parallel test, where you leave the primary facility running and you restore, you take down activities in the alternative recovery center and restore activities from there. Okay, so have what is called structured walkthrough. This is where you and your team go through the plan, or is what is called a checklist review or tabletop exercise. Okay, so remember to test and maintain the plan at least once every year. Thank you so much for listening. We've come to the very end of this course, and I'm sure you've gained quite a lot. And we're going to have a quiz for the last three modules, and in due time, the quiz will be uploaded. Thank you very much for listening.